Hey everybody, we're back, and this time we're going to go to the other side. We're looking again at this area around Michigan and Wisconsin at the effect of the Great Lakes and what's going on there in terms of the geology and the glaciology that have happened in the past and what it does to gold and where you can find gold. So I'm Prospector Jess. This is Prospector Jess right down here on the huntingforgold.com and sourdoughminer.com. You can visit both of those blogs and find more about gold and where to find gold and what tools and all kinds of interesting stuff. Just thought I'd let you know that so you can go check it out. Check out sourdoughminer.com and look at it now. There's stuff, these videos get posted there, as well as there's a lot of other blog posts about different aspects of gold prospecting and finding gold. Our goal here at Hunting for Gold is, how may we help you find more gold? So we're here to help you do just that. Now, tonight, where is gold in Wisconsin? That correlates with our business last night with where is gold in Michigan. So we're just continuing the saga westward, and you can see in this picture I've kind of marked them up in yellow a little bit so you can kind of make out the markers a little easier on your TV or on your phone. One of the problems you have with any of these things is sometimes it's hard to see them on the phone, and so that's why I tend to use customizations. I talk about that in the Government Gold Maps report and in the Government Gold Maps videos that I have. It's also, you can get that inside of the GDU, the Gold Diggers Underground, that I've been talking about, and there's a link above or below. You can find that and check it out. Take a look and see if it's right for you. You know, the principle there is, again, how may I help you find more gold? And one of the things I do in that is to provide you some insight into what that product has and some idea about how and what I do to help you know the why things are where they are when it comes to looking for gold, and why you should know that before you ever dig a single shovel load into your gold pan. So that's what I'm here for, Prospector Jess. So let's move on. Wisconsin. Let's see. In Wisconsin, we have some unusual things going on again. Here we have our Great Lakes wrapping around this area, and so we still have that same principle that the glaciers moved material so heavily that it completely changed the geologic residue, what remains. And yet there is a couple of places where you can find gold, even in Wisconsin and even in Michigan, and that is this region in between Lake Michigan and Lake Superior. And so what we want to do is kind of dive into, maybe a little bit we'll dive in tonight, about why that would be and what you might do about it. I also don't think there's a lot of prospects to dig into tonight, so I'm not going to go bouncing around too much. I want to spend more time looking at another type of map that you can look at in conjunction with these gold maps. You sort of mesh the two concepts together. And so we'll look a little bit at the geology in the background without going too deep. But I just want to kind of peek at the effects that these glaciers have had on the underlying bedrock, the root material that has the load, that has the gold. Because that's where you're looking, when you're looking, anytime you look at geology, you want to find out what was the original source, the load, the deposit, the rocks and minerals that had it, you know, disseminated in it in the way of granitic material, things like that. And what does that mean in terms of what I'm going to be looking for when I go out to recover gold? So let's get on with it. So way over here is this cat willow right on the border to Michigan. And it has, again, here we go, copper, zinc, secondary. So that's our primaries, copper and zinc. Secondary is silver and gold. So again, we get this primary, secondary, tertiary, 1, 2, 3. What kind of degree can we expect to see in the stuff we find in the area around cat willow? Well, they found primarily copper and some zinc, with silver and gold coming in for the silver and gold lining. And that's pretty typical of this kind of area, because remember, we talked about that before, tremendous amount of zinc and copper. That's what they find in this area. And so what you're going to be looking for are things closer to that zinc, that copper and silver nugget I showed you last night. Go look up the Michigan video, and you'll see a great image of a copper nugget that has a band of silver wrapped around it. Take a look at that and you'll see what I mean. So again, we're looking at that kind of appearance Here we go, zinc, lead, copper, and then silver, and then the tertiary, the last thing on the list, is gold. So it has some gold, probably inside the silver in the form of electrum. So you're not going to see something that looks nice and golden looking. It's going to look more silvery, like the one we did last night. But if you tested it, you'd find out it might have 10–20% gold or higher. Depends on what's in the material. So that's all kind of interesting. Now this one is a lode source, and so it's going to be more of this chalcopyrite, like this little animal right here. And so what you're looking for in these cases is this kind of, see how it glistens? It doesn't sparkle. It kind of acts almost like waxy coated with brassy looking material, and maybe even some colors like bluish. And so what we got here is a piece of chalcopyrite that is high in gold concentration, along with the copper and the sulfur and the iron. And so that is one. And by the way, this thing is fairly dense, so it's heavy. You know, it doesn't feel like your typical rock. It feels like a piece of metal. Okay, so and so that's those two. Way up here in the Chippewa copper nickel mine, up in Duluth, you have an underground prospect. So this is a lode mine, and it has a tertiary commodity: nickel, silver, gold, and copper. So they're pulling out something else, and primarily they're getting some other commodities out of this thing, and then with it comes this nickel, silver, copper, gold kind of band, probably mixed into something like chalcopyrite or gravels or something. It's hard to say. This is a copper nickel mine, so they're looking primarily for the copper and nickel, and that's not unusual. And as a side effect of the recovery process, they recover some gold, and that's just added value to what they find there. But a lot of these things are just looking primarily for the copper and the nickel. Those both have some pretty serious value in their industrial uses, as you can see by all the recent thefts of copper and copper wiring everywhere. Here we go. Commodity number one is gold and copper. Silver is commodity number two, or the secondary. Okay, so we go, bounce around. Here's a Reef Gold deposit. So Reef kind of makes a hint. Whenever you talk about reefs and gold, it's not coral. It's usually a quartz stringer, some massive structure that's got a fairly strong amount of reef-like material, which typically quartz does when the material around it erodes, and so you'll end up with these bands that look like a reef that's stranded on land, that'll go on for a couple thousand feet, and it'll be dark and yellowy looking, kind of like a coral reef or something, but it's really a stringer full of copper and iron and things like that have long rusted and let their sulfides etch away, and so it creates this really ugly looking dark reddish yellow, maybe even black stained mineral deposit. And it can be very sharp and very hard because it's got a lot of silica, quartz. Buried in that is gold. So let's take a look. This one says it's chalcopyrite, gold, pyrrhotite. It's a low sulfide gold quartz vein. So there we go. We got a quartz vein, and that's why it looks like a reef. And this commodity number one that they're pulling out of this one is gold. So that's kind of it for tonight for Wisconsin's gold. Now let's take a look at that geology, the geology of Wisconsin and how it relates to gold. That'll help us understand Michigan as well, because this whole area, and as we spread away from here, this is sort of the easiest to demonstrate, but as it spreads out, this thing is huge. It has impact all the way from Ontario, Canada, all the way down into the lower Midwest, down toward the lower end of Missouri. And so you find these impacts of glaciation, and what they do to gold are profound, and that's why it's very important to kind of get your head wrapped around that and why it impacts gold and why you should look for gold in a certain way, because it's different than East or West Coast. That's the real truth here, and that's why I've been putting off talking about it for a while, because it's a little difficult to get into. But let's get after it and see what happens. What the heck? Try it. So let's go to our image. So this is a geologic map, if I can get it aimed right. I had a little trouble just before the show. Let me zoom in on it a little better. So here you go. University of Minnesota, Minnesota Geological Survey. Matt Walton is the director. That's the origin of this document. What we're looking at here is kind of the Canadian border and the upper part of Wisconsin, but pretty much all the way through the the area around Wisconsin and into Michigan. And what we're looking at is the effect of those glaciers. What I'm trying to do is get it to back out, but you know, that's easier said than done. So let's see if we can't drop because it's a huge file. That's why it's taking so long. You know, it's an i7 computer, you know, Pentium, but it's stressing it. There we go. And you kind of see why it's stressing it. There's a lot of information on this map. These are changes in the geologic structure and typically go along with faults, these dark black lines. And then what we're looking at here is the effect of what all of this stuff did to change the geology of the region. And I'm going to have to scroll a little bit here, so hang on. Scroll over and look at the areas we've been looking at. So here's Lake Superior, and these are all those geologic areas where we were finding copper and gold and silver. And then here's your Lake Michigan. So primarily what we're looking at is an awful lot of material here, this brown and some of this gray. Now a lot of these things, I'm going to have to read it off to you, so pardon me, I'm going to disappear off the screen. In fact, why don't I just go to without me. Right here is a legend that describes the different rocks. And in fact, primarily what we have in Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan are a combination of metamorphic igneous rocks. The sediments and so forth have been scoured off, so what you have really is a lot of outcrops. The sediments that are left over are deposits from the glaciers. And so now what we're looking at is this AGR stands for granitic rocks, okay, and a something or other, blue, I'll go for that. So pink is AGR, that's granite. Blue is more of a metamorphic sedimentary and volcanic. And kind of greenish brown is more metamorphic. And then this red is a banded iron formation, okay? And so that was what caught my attention, was that red. Let's take a look, because I think you'll find something interesting about what we're seeing there. And that is right here, if we go up. Notice this red. This is the stuff reddish brown. These are those banded iron formations, and they are deposits that have iron, copper, gold, and silver. And so what's happened is, even though they've had this scrubbing by action of ice, there is a material, you know, through these regions that has embedded iron, copper, and gold. And so that's the kind of thing you're going to be looking for, is this banded iron formation, interbedded metamorphic rocks, including Sudan iron formation of northern Minnesota. And so, and this thing goes clear over into Minnesota, which we'll be covering shortly. So we'll probably come back and visit this map again later. But I just thought it might be of interest to you that, you know, this is kind of what we're looking for, is these anomalies. Normally what you're going to see is there isn't much gold. But I'm going to draw on this map if I can do it. Let's see if it can. Yeah, I sure can. And I'll draw in that ugly green color in thick lines. So pretty much what we've got is this whole region through here. Missed that part. And then this region down in here all have this, and a little bit right in here, have this kind of interesting, has that interesting pattern that we were talking about. I just made it disappear. That wasn't too good. It erases when I disappear. So that stuff I circled in green just a minute ago, here, that, you know, I'll do it again, see if it'll stick. Oh, now it's going to do it in red. Okay, so right down through here, and all this junk down here. Those two areas are kind of this mineralized material that is metamorphosed, that bears copper, iron, silver, and gold. And so what we're looking for is the glaciers scrub this thing right down to the bedrock, breaking out a lot of material and taking it elsewhere. Who knows if there wouldn't have been some more over in here. Okay, but the fact is that because of the shape of the lakes, you can kind of tell that basically they're going to kind of form their glacial arm, and anything that was in them is going to be out that way, out west or out south, and way far away from here. These guys were probably high ground, and so they scoured right down to the high ground, and then any erosion that happened since the glaciers have retreated pretty much leaves some material behind in the way of nuggets. Also, there could have been pitting and things, because there might be, you can see a lot of differentiation going on here in the way of rock materials, sediment, metamorphic, etc. If it's not very hard, it can leave a dent if there's hard stuff below it. And that's what the lakes are formed out of. And so it leaves a dent that can form a trap for gold, for nuggets, for copper, for silver. And like the silver copper nugget I showed you last night. So the idea is we're looking to see what kind of geologic anomalies might give us another hint. In addition to the map that shows you where gold was found, is there a map that shows you where gold might be found? And so then you might focus on, for example, clear this, change colors back to green. I like that green. And so I might just go focus right in here and just spend a little time researching this whole area here and look deeply into the history of these rocks and any claims that are in the area that you might get access to. Because after all, if you can find gold, then gold is where you find it. And so that's it for tonight. Prospector Jess over and out. I hope all the audio and everything's working. Let me check in just to make sure. It's kind of goofy to do it at the end of the video. If not, I'm going to repost. That's my new standard procedure. If things don't work, find it the next night. I'll be reposting. So it just makes it a lot easier on me if I don't have to worry about it while we're doing this. It's being captured on my disk, so we'll just post it back up. That also goes over to YouTube, to Prospector Jess channel. Check it out. Sign up and become a subscriber. Go right ahead, and don't forget to avail yourself of the sourdoughminer.com GDU offer that I've got going right here, just because you can. And you'll learn more about how to find gold and how to do this kind of stuff with maps beyond just gold maps. Because what you want to do is understand rocks and minerals, geology, gold, history, and maybe a little bit of prepper might help. You can get out there and dig, but you don't have to be a prepper to do this stuff. What you got to be is, you got to be persistent, and you got to be patient, and then work with people who know. Yeah, he's live right now. Look at that. And there's that fancy map I was just drawing with the circle on it. So that's it for tonight. Good prospecting. Prospector Jess, over and out. And remember, if you're looking for gold, check out the GDU. Catch you then. Good night. Where is gold in Wisconsin? I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, comment below. Let me know what you think, and let me know what you want to do next. We're continuing through the 50 states. There's lots of them to go, so hang on. Be patient.